Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope that everyone is doing well. As you guys might know, I'm finally back in Hong Kong. Many people was wondering about my trip back to Hong Kong and all the procedure I had to go through. So I decided to make a video regarding this topic since the travel procedures and rules have changed during this pandemic. So I thought that this video could be insightful and helpful for some of you guys. So if you know anyone that are coming back or planning to fly to Hong Kong, then definitely share this video with him or her because I will share some recommendation and advice in this video. So I want to first declare that the information and procedure that I'm going to talk about might have changed a bit since the COVID-19 cases in Hong Kong has increased since I came back. To save you some time, I will make a timeline in the description so you can watch the certain parts that you are interested in. But it will of course be highly appreciated if you watch the whole video. So let's start. I traveled back to Hong Kong on the 15th July and I already know that they have changed one of the rules since I came back. The new rule is that the passenger had to do a COVID-19 test before the departure from the country, which I did not have to do. So I traveled from Sweden to Hong Kong and had a transit flight in Helsinki. So the first thing I noticed with the flight from Sweden to Helsinki was that it was way smaller than it usually is. This flight had only 4 seats per row. Usually they have a bigger plane with 6 seats on each row, like 3-3. But the overall experience was good. We got some cleaning kit before we entered the plane, which we could use to sanitize and clean the area that we were going to sit at. And it was not many passengers at all at this flight. I think I haven't seen so few passengers on an airplane before. It was really spacious and the seats around me was empty, which made me feel like I was flying a private jet. So my flight to Hong Kong was delayed for 8 hours, so I had to spend around 10 hours at the Helsinki Airport. And it was actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I quite enjoyed the atmospheres. This was the first time I felt this calmness in an airport because I'm not sure about you guys, but I usually feel stressful at the airport because of the crowds and the atmosphere that people gives you while they're like hurrying to catch their plane. So this travel was definitely one of my best experience and I quite enjoyed the time at the airport. So they gave us a small pillow and blanket so we could sleep on the airport, but I wanted to sleep on the airplane. So I stayed up and did some work and watched some movies and series instead. Finnair had implemented a new rule for the passengers during this pandemic, and the new rule was that every passengers need to wear a face mask on the plane. And I think that this rule was a really good implementation by Finnair. Because even if they didn't implement this rule, I think that every passenger should wear one because of the current pandemic, and since this is a way to show respect to all the other passengers that are flying with you. I flew quite a lot before this pandemic and I always noticed that there are some passengers that are sneezing or coughing without covering mouth or nose, and I find that quite disrespectful for the other passengers that are flying with him or her, especially the one that are sitting next to that person. So I think that this implementation was a good one by Finnair. So my second flight from Helsinki to Hong Kong was quite empty. I think it was around 30 people on board, so it was quite spacious, especially for me since I was sitting at the end of the airplane and most people were like sitting in the front or in the middle of the airplane. So the first procedure I had to do when I arrived Hong Kong was to go through a custom, which you had to fill in your personal information, phone number and the place that you were going to spend your 40 days quarantine at. They will also give you a tracking band and teach you how to download the app. So advice number 1 is that you should fill in the form on the Hong Kong government website 48 hours before the flight. I did that during my delay in Helsinki, so I received a QR code which I could use in the first custom. So the first custom went quite smooth since I only needed to scan the QR code and didn't need to fill in all the information. They will then double check if your phone number is reachable and working. After you go through all the personal information, they will then give you like a paper regarding the terms and conditions and the penalties for violating the quarantine rules, which you have to like agree and sign. After you finish the first procedure, you will then just go through the regular passport and ID control that you usually do and then pick up your luggage. They will then have some signs that will guide you towards an elevator which will take you to the ground floor where they have a bus that which are waiting for you. They got some staff that will help you to lift your luggage onto the bus to make the process like smoother, and then they will drive you to the World Asia Expo where they will do the COVID-19 test. So I could unfortunately not take any footage or video inside the place since it was strictly forbidden to do that. But the first thing you will do when you arrive is to drop your luggage at a common storage area and then receive a luggage tag which you will use in order to collect back your luggage after you finish the test. After that, you will then pick up your test kit and then watch a video on how you should do the test. The video was displayed on 3 big screens in the hall, so the people did not have to stand close to each other, which I think was a good thing. After the tutorial video, you will then go and get a number, which is a number for a certain like stand or a room where you should do the saliva test and then give it back to them so they can analyze it. And since I was landing at around 12 o'clock, I received an accommodation by Hong Kong government for 1 night. If you arrive in the morning, then you will wait for the test result at the Asia World Expo. So I had to do an additional procedure since I was going to receive an accommodation where I had to fill in my allergy and if I was traveling alone or with family and where my 14 days quarantine location was at. I got a queue-in ticket after I filled in all the information and had to wait for about 1 hour before they called up my number to collect my room number for the hotel and some paper and my second testing kit that I could use later on during my quarantine stay. You will also receive a sheet where you have to fill in your daily temperature and how you feel during your 14 days quarantine. I would advise you to bring a own thermometer with you because they won't give you one. So if you don't bring one with you, then you would have to order one online or tell your friends or family to bring one for you since you are not allowed to go out and buy stuff during your 14 days quarantine. So it would be more convenient for you to bring one since you already have to measure your temperature in the next day in the morning. After I received all the stuff, I went to collect my luggage and then waited for the bus which drove us to the accommodation. So the accommodation that they provided was Regal Oriental Hotel in Kowloon City. The bus ride to the hotel was around 35 minutes and it was quite bumpy. It could be that I was unlucky with the driver, but if you get motion sickness easily, then you should probably take a pill before you get onto the bus to prevent the motion sickness. I arrived at the hotel around 3:30 and received my room key at the entrance of the hotel, and they also prepared a meal for me that I could bring up to my room and eat. The food was a bit cold, but it was a kind gesture of them to give you that since you were not able to buy any food since you landed and you could be a bit hungry. The overall experience at the hotel was good. The room that they gave me was really spacious. I woke up at around 11 o'clock the next day since they told us that the test result would be back between 11 to 3 o'clock. They called up to my hotel room and told me that my test result was negative at around 3 o'clock. After I received the result, I went down to the lobby and filled in some papers and then gave back the key card to them, which took about 30 minutes since it was quite many people. Another advice I want to give you guys is that you should order a Uber or book a taxi in advance, since there are many people that are queuing for a taxi outside the hotel. I ordered a Uber to my 40 days quarantine stay, which was at Dorset Mongkok. You have to fill in like a transportation form that contains your transportation details to your quarantine location. So you have to, for example, fill in if you took a bus or a taxi, the license plate number and what time you took it, etc. So it was quite convenient to use the Uber app, since the app will store all the information in the history tab, so I could easily fill in the information in the form later on. So that's a wrap for this video, and I want to thank all of you guys that made it to the end of this video. It really means a lot for me that you watched the whole video, and especially the end of it. Remember that everything in this video is based on my own experience, and that some procedures and rules might have already been changed, so always check out the government website and see if there are any updates and changes. And I did not want this video to be too long, so I would do a separate video which I would go through the 40 days quarantine stay and how my experience and feeling was like to stay in a room for 14 days and things you should be aware of. So remember to check that one out later on. I want to once again thank you all for watching my video, and hope that everyone is well and staying strong during these difficult times. And if you are feeling sad or depressed, then remember to share it with your close friends and family, and always remember that you are not in this alone. We are going through this pandemic together, and we will stay strong and fight it together. So remember to stay strong and have a positive mindset. So thanks for watching. Remember to like, share and subscribe if you like the video. So that's all for me. See you guys in my next video. Thank you. Bye bye.